Hi, I'm John Scardina, a professional emergency manager and former federal emergency response official with Type 1 response experience. This means that I've helped manage some of the most extreme disasters over the past decade. This includes multiple hurricanes, wildfires, mass flooding, and the Ebola response of 2014. I know what it takes to get the job done in a response and to move forward. I've seen a lot of videos posted about, your emergency plan for your family, and people have been asking questions about that from me specifically. I can scour the internet and I can find ideas for food supply, for shelter in place, or for your go bag, but I don't really find anything that talks about a consolidated list of critical information you should have. So I'm making an informal video from my home. Like you're probably sheltering in place as well, quarantine with the pandemic, and you're trying to find something to do that's productive. So I'm giving you a downloadable document that's free off our website with all the critical information you'll need to be able to put together for your family emergency plan. This isn't about likes or shares, but it is about awareness. So during this unprecedented time when everybody's home and their awareness is really high for emergency response and preparation, I would ask that you, if you like this video, please share it with somebody that could help them as well. So I'm just going to go through the document myself, explain why I put that information in there, and what you can do with it yourself. So let's go in. So now that we're looking at the document, I start off by explaining home insurance. Now, home insurance is number one because, it's the thing that's going to matter most during recovery. So if I'm leaving my house, if an evacuation order has been given or sheriff says I have 30 minutes to leave, I don't want to be texting all my friends saying, oh my gosh, I'm evacuating, because that will come. What I need to do is, once I get in the car, I can have all my documents together, and I can say, okay, I need to make a claim. Now, what I've seen in disasters is that hundreds of thousands of claims can be made. I think in Hurricane Harvey, I saw like 710,000 claims for residents for a claim on their home, right? So if you want to go through that process and make sure that your house, that claim is covered, you don't want to be waiting multiple days before you make that claim. And you don't want to have to remember, oh shoot, I have to make that claim, right? So once you get in the car, hand this document over to your spouse, let them, go through this. They have the policy number, the provider, the phone number, obviously, and put your claim in. Because insurance companies are going to go through every single claim and they're going to validate based off that address. They're probably going to show up and look at it to make sure, okay, there are damages and what's the level of that damage. So the faster you can get on that list, the better for you. Okay. The next one is flood insurance. Now, this isn't going to apply to everybody, but if you do live in a floodplain, it will apply to you, especially you. I think it was in 1978 when the U.S. passed a Flood Insurance Policy Act that required grants to be given out to people with flood insurance if they live in a floodplain or for any other natural disaster. Now you might think, okay, the tornado destroyed my house, not a flood. But it's the idea that things are damaged by water. So if that tornado goes through and rips off the roof of the house, and then that same system, the rainstorm comes through and drops water into that house, well, now you have a flooding issue. So they're two separate problems. So make sure that you have in flood insurance. I've included that just in case it's a separate policy if it's not part of your normal policy. But if you do live in a floodplain, go through there and make sure that all those required documents are in there. Okay, the FEMA disaster survivor assistance. Okay, I would normally just provide that number for you, but they do update it every once in a while. It's pretty rare. But if they go through and update it, I don't want to provide you outdated information. So this will require you to go through probably annually. It's just to make sure that all the documents are right in here and that the phone numbers are correct. So have their phone number, have their website. Again, this is disaster survivor assistance, so they can cover things like hotel stays, food, and give you additional resources to follow up on. Okay, the SBA, the Small Business Administration, mortgage loans. You can get mortgage loans through the SBA. Again, they're going to be asking for all this documentation. What's your insurance? Who's your provider? What mortgage company do you use? Escrow, the whole deal, right? They're a government agency. They're going to check off every single box just to make sure that they can validate who you are. So that leads us to the next one. It's mortgage. if you have a mortgage, your loan policy number, your lender, put all that information down, including the physical address. SBA and others are going to ask for that physical address of the bank. Now, that might not make a lot of sense because we live in a digital age, but they need that information to validate. So having that information will, again, reduce your stress and help you move forward. Okay. Property deed, same idea. If you have your deed, make sure you have your documents. And then let's move on to healthcare. So this is for all emergency. This is a family emergency plan. So you have a crisis that is temporary, but it's a crisis for your family. Having this information on hand where you can answer questions very quickly is going to help you out. But before we go to the next page, I just want to make a note for these little check boxes that you see on these pages. Now those check boxes note a physical copy you're going to want, whether it's documents for your mortgage company or your home insurance policy. Maybe it's a piece of mail, maybe it's an email, but you want something physical to prove that it's your stuff and you haven't recorded the information wrong. It's just like it's all there, right? So, and it also notes, hey, where did you store this document? Some people have a filing cabinet. We also have a fireproof safe, so that, a portable one that we can take with us, which I can get to later. But the less you have to process and think about in an evacuation or in a disaster, the better for you. Those basic functions can kind of go away. The stress is really high, your anxiety, you're trying to grab your kids, make sure you have your diaper bag, all that stuff. So you don't want to think about this. If you have this document that says, hey, here's all the important information, this is exactly where it's at in the house, you don't have to think about it in that moment. You just grab it right next to your go bags, right? Okay, so you start to have your insurance policy, you've put all this stuff together, maybe in your fireproof safe, and you're going through this list. Okay, dental insurance provider, of course, life insurance, all that healthcare documentation, medications, life-saving, life-sustaining only. Now, I'm not talking about what you put in your first aid kit, like the ibuprofen or the Tums, maybe make things a lot easier for yourself. I'm talking about in a medical emergency. So if you have a teenager who might know that you're diabetic, but they don't know what type of diabetic you are or the medications you take, this would really help them out. Let's say there's a member in your family who is diabetic, like a father, and he falls, and you call 911. Well, those EMTs show up. That teenager can say, hey, my dad fell, he's type 2 diabetic, he takes this much insulin, here's the other medications he takes, and they can kind of walk through that with the EMT, as well as, the doctors maybe at the hospital. So having that information that the entire family can access, even for a medical emergency where EMT might show up, would really help out. It also helps to provide those other medical facts, like who the primary care physician is. So if I've evacuated and I'm really low on a life-saving medicine or an EpiPen that I just used, then I can say, hey, this is the medicine I take, this is the frequency, this is my primary care physician, I can't get a hold of him or her, I need more medicine. If you bring that information to the doctor, that's going to help them out a lot faster. Okay? Medications, where they're stored. They might be in the refrigerator, it might be in a cabinet. Be as specifically as humanly possible, okay? It's downstairs, guest bathroom, second shelf. This is for other people grabbing it, and this is for you grabbing it without having to process more information as you're dealing with a high-stress situation. Okay? Those high-stress situations become higher when you have to process more. So this document is now reducing the amount of things you have to go through, which will reduce your stress. Okay? Let's see. Utility providers. So power, power electric, your gas, your water, you're going to want to shut those off if you're evacuating, especially things like a wildfire. You don't want explosions in the home, okay? So if you can deal with, or if you have the time to shut them off, that's phenomenal. You can also call, or if you're providing your username and password for an online system on your way out, you can shut those things off so you're not incurring costs during a disaster. There might even be programs where they're going to help you out. Okay, one or two caveats here. Your tool, your gas shutoff tool. Now, this is my gas shutoff tool. It has my gas and my water on it. And I'm going to put that in my garage, and I'm going to say, okay, it's not just in my garage because people are going to be looking for it, especially if you smell gas in your home. You're going to say, okay, it's in the garage, second shelf on the left, it's silver. This is what it looks like. You might want to include a picture for other members of your family. But go grab that and do the proper shut off. The one caveat, again, based off the tool, is once you shut off the gas, you need a emergency responder or the gas company to turn it back on. Okay, I would strongly suggest, I would even say you must not turn on your gas after you turn it off. Okay, have a first responder do it. If you do it improperly, you could kill yourself, you could seriously harm your home. There's lots of different problems. If you smell gas and it goes away and you think everything's fine, it doesn't matter. You still call 911, let them come in and take care of that problem for you. Okay, let's see. What next? Okay, we just covered water. Again, you want to shut everything off if you have time. Internet and cable. Yep. So other debts. And I say other debts because you've already included your mortgage. I'm talking about your car, maybe student loans, credit cards. If you're evacuating, you might not be getting an income during that time. So you want to be able to pause that, and maybe they'll have programs. During this pandemic, for example, a lot of banks are pausing mortgage loans, right? So that people can survive long enough where they can go back to work and start making those payments again. So there might be programs there to help you out. But if you're evacuating or you're in a high stress situation and you're having to process that, or you're trying to pull up data on your phone and phone lines are really slow, the satellites are all clogged up, you're not going to be able to download information or find that phone number. Better to have a physical copy. Okay. Emergency contact. Okay, emergency contact, out of state. And the reason why we say out of state or out of region is because when you have a mass casualty or a mass incident where, a hurricane's barreling at you or everybody's trying to get a hold of everybody, there's been a large earthquake, those cell towers are trying to process everybody's text messages and phone calls, okay, within the same loop. That will slow things down dramatically. You might not be able to get it out, right? You might not be able to get that information out or checking on people, or you'll have those people trying to update their Facebook status or adding a new picture like I'm right next to the earthquake. You don't want to deal with all that. What you want to do is ping the cell tower, and in that cell tower ping a tower that's outside of the disaster and head out towards an area that's not impacted, where there's not a lot of messages being received that can deal with that influx, right? So that out-of-state contact, what I would say is make sure that those people know that they're the out-of-state contact. Now that might seem obvious, but it's not, because some people can't deal with the stress of that. Some people, the anxiety of any time a disaster strikes, I could be the person on the hook for trying to navigate. That's a lot of stress, okay, for somebody in a certain group. Make sure that they are aware and that they are okay with being the out-of-state contact. So if I'm in this location, I'm away from my wife, I can contact them and say, hey, can you just let my wife know that I'm safe and I'm in location A and I'm headed towards location B. I'll meet you there in an hour or whatever. And my wife can respond, or she can do vice versa, and we can start connecting with each other a lot faster. Okay. Password for family and friends to grab your children. Okay, you might have a neighbor. The children will probably know this person, but the neighbor's going to say, hey, I'm going to go pick up my kids. I can pick up your kids too. And you'll say, okay, great, thank you. To have basically a code that they can say, hey, what can you answer this question for me? As long as it's not like a very obvious question, something unique that your kids can memorize, that you can memorize, that's perfect, right? Again, it probably should be somebody that your kids know. But again, having that password that they can use to pick up your kids is really great. I would talk about this on a family night or over dinner for the next couple weeks. Allow the kids to choose the words. Again, something unique that they can remember. But really just ingrain that information just in case something happens. Okay. Identification. Again, this might be another obvious one, but I like to say everybody should have a passport. It's a 10-year ID. So if you're going up to a government site or you're going to a shelter and they require an ID and you don't have your wallet, or everybody doesn't have IDs, that could become a problem. But if you put your passports in that fireproof safe that's portable, and you brought it with you, and they say, okay, I need an ID. Boom, 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 boom. We all have IDs. We're doing great. Okay, so any social security number or social security card or green card, any kind of government official document and passport in that fireproof safe be really helpful. The last one is community emergency shelters for this list of documents under emergency contacts, right? So emergency shelters, they're pre-designated. Try to find out where your Red Cross shelters are. It might be a school near you, it might be a pre-identified church, but figuring out where that's at and including the directions to there. Again, you're going to be functioning at high stress and even processing, okay, my phone's not working, how do I go 3 miles down the road? You don't have to worry about that. You have your couple routes, you know how to get there, everything's going to be okay. The caveat to that is if you have pets, most pets cannot come to shelters in a disaster. So the only pets that are allowed to come are like service animals, like a dog. That's what the doctors note, and it's a person with disability. They can show up to certain shelters. If you have pets and you want to take them to a shelter, there are disaster shelters for pets. So I would include that information as well, and you're going to have to update your route, right, to the animal shelter and then to the human shelter for emergencies. So include that information there. Okay, so I included family history, and I wanted to make this note because I don't want people, and I've kind of seen this before a few times, right? They try to grab all their favorite pictures, all the picture frames, and that's just not logical. What you should do is have either scanned in digital copies, whether it's an online service that you can use a username and password to get into, but you can also take those documents and those pictures and put it in a hard drive. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you put that hard drive in your fireproof safe, which is okay, just know that if it's a fire specific, it's probably going to get destroyed because it will still get hot in that box. And so that USB drive or that hard drive, external drive rather, will get overheated and destroyed. Okay, so just know that it's for on-the-go purposes. Right, I have all my documents together on my hard drive, and I'm going to take it with me. Okay, include your new username and password if it's for an online service, but just remember, if it's a physical hard drive, physical USB drive, make sure that's going with you and not going through a fire. I think that covers everything outside of emergency alerts. So emergency alerts, NOAA weather radio. So there's WEAs, wireless emergency alerts that goes through iPods, the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. Emergency alert system can come through multiple different ways. It comes through phones like those amber alerts or silver alerts. FEMA can send them out on behalf of the federal government to everybody, blast all the cell towers to get down to the local level. And they can also come through their other means, right? The street or the street signs that blare the signal, or NOAA radio. Okay, the NOAA weather radios do more than just weather. They will say announcements for evacuations. So wildfires that have come through in the middle of the night, like in Napa, okay, if it's in the middle of the night and you're sleeping, you might have silent mode turned on, or you might not have those emergency alert systems coming through your phone, but on a radio, it will be jarring, it will wake you up. It's not going to be pleasant, but you'll be able to evacuate. So have a NOAA weather radio as part of your emergency kit and keep yourself safe. I'm John Scardino with the Doberman Emergency Management Firm. We've created this free document, a download that you can go to our website. It has all the critical information you need. I hope you use it. I hope during this time when you're at your home and you're trying to find something productive to do, that this can help you out. Please share this video. There's a lot of people that don't have this information together. If you've watched it and you found it valuable, please share it with other people. Get awareness out while everybody's thinking about this. Thank you very much.